Hi, I'm going to teach you how to make this cute little starfish out of seed beads. He's constructed primarily out of size 10 or 11 seed bead, and then the body is constructed out of size 15 delicas. Okay, I had actually posted a picture of this necklace, get it around here so you can see it, made out of these starfish. I'd posted on one of my Facebook groups that I'm a member of, and I was really overwhelmed with the positive response, and people were asking me for the pattern, and unfortunately I didn't use a pattern. I had just looked at pictures of starfish and some starfish that people had beaded, and figured out that it was essentially a combination of peyote and herringbone. If you have ever made frames before, triangle or square frames, it's essentially the same concept where you are using a herringbone stitch with a peyote in the middle. Okay, the difference really in what makes the starfish get its shape is obviously you're starting off with a solid center, and also you're using the variation in bead size. That's what pulls it together. So here we go. I'm going to teach you how to make this cute little starfish. You're going to start off with 5 seed beads. These are actually size 10 seed beads that I'm using today. You're going to string 5 on there. We're going to come back up through those 5, pass through them, and then you're going to pass through the first one again to create our little loop. Okay? So there we have our 5 beads. Then you're going to peyote stitch in between each of those beads. Okay, so I'm coming out of this bead, I picked up a bead, I'm going into the next one. Okay, so that's how we look so far. You're going to pick up another bead, and you're going to go into the next bead in our little circle. Okay, and that's how we look. Starting to look kind of silly. Pick up another bead, go into the next bead. You're going to continue around the circle. Pick up a bead, go through, pick up a bead. Okay, now we're back to the beginning and ready to complete our circle. So you're going to go into the next bead right here, and the tail is sticking. I guess it would help if I get it on camera, huh? So we're coming out of this bead right here is our thread. Okay, see that? And you're going to pass through the next bead. But then to continue on, before we do anything else, we need to step up into the next row. So I want to show you what it looks like at this point. Okay, get this around here so I'm heading in my correct direction. Okay, see where we are? And this little guy's just twisted a little bit. No big deal. Okay, see where we are? But now we need to pass through the next bead to get us up into the correct row so that we can proceed. Okay, so now we're coming out of this bead here. Okay, so for our next row, what we're going to do is we're going to pick up 2 beads and then pass through this bead here. Okay, so you can see we're coming out here. We're going to pass through here with our 2 beads. Okay, see if I can get this to pan in a little bit tighter for us. We're going to pick up 2 more beads, pick up 2 beads, and then you're going to pass through the next bead right here. You're going to continue that around till we're back to the beginning of the row. So that's 2 out of the 5. Here's 3. Pick up 2 more beads and pass through the next one. You may have noticed too, I didn't tie a knot when I started this. I never do. And especially with this particular pattern, it's going to be woven so tight, it's not necessary at all to do that. Okay, so here's what we look like. Come on, focus. There we go. Here's what we look like. And you're going to pass through this bead right here, okay, to finish out our row. And then to get us on track to where we need to be to continue on the following row, we have to step up through that bead. If you mess up and make a mistake, there are two challenges to this pattern, and that's one of them right there. That's probably the biggest challenge, is making sure you always step up to the next row. The other challenge I'll point out here in just a second. Okay, so now we have our base, and we're ready to start doing the combination of herringbone and peyote. So we're going to add 2 beads. We're going to get 2 beads on here. And you're going to pass right down through the very next bead. Now you're passing straight down through it. Okay? And what that's going to do is it's going to stack those 2 beads right on top. You can see that herringbone. And that's going to make this, we're creating the spine right here by doing that. Next, you're going to pick up a 15 delica. Okay, and I know, what a ding dong, I'm using, almost flesh colored beads here that you can barely even see, but I'm actually going to use the starfish when it's done. So pick up a delica, then you're going to pass up from the bottom through the very next bead. Okay, so let me see if I can get this really good on camera. This is our bead we're going into. That's the first of one of those 2 beads that we just added on that row, and you're going to come up and through and pull it nice and snug. Okay, now pick up 2 more beads, 2 more of the size 10 or 11s, and then you're going to go down through the very next bead, and that's going to add our herringbone on there. Pick up a 15, and then you're going to come up through the bottom of the very next bead. Okay, add 2 more of our size 10s, and you're going to go down that bead to add our herringbone. And the next thing you're going to do is add a 15. It is a challenge for me. I have to wear reading glasses now when I bead. I'm of that age, and so it is a challenge for me as I'm looking down on my bead mat and trying to make this video. It's hard for me to see those beads down there. So if it looks like I'm stabbing into oblivion, well, it's because I can't see. Okay, so we picked up 2 beads. We're coming down. Okay, we're getting around there too, back to our beginning. And let me speed this up a little bit, because what we're going to do next gets a little tricky, and then we'll be just about done with the tricky part. So, and I'm adding another 15. Okay, so I am now back to the beginning row, and if you see these little spokes, we have 2 rows of spokes. 1, 2, you can see 1, 2 of the spokes, and there is one number 15 in between each one, except for we're now at the last one on here. Okay, so what we're going to do, remember, this is where it gets tricky, and if you're going to mess up, this is where one of the places where it's really easy to mess up. You're not going in this top bead. Okay, you need to go in the bead right underneath it. And sometimes it's a little tricky to get your needle in there, but just teach it who's boss and get it in there. Probably would have helped if I didn't put lotion on right before I started this video. Okay, so we're coming up through. See that? Coming right up through that bead, and it's pulling our little delica right into place. And then you have to step up through the next bead to get us on track with our row. Okay? To follow that, so this is what you should look like right now. It's exactly what you should look like. Now we're going to add 2 more beads onto here, and this time when we come out, we're going to add our 15 on there. Pick up a 15, and we're going to go back through the 15 from the row below. Okay, so can you see this on here? We're going to go through that 15, and it's going to add that seed bead next to it. that. It's going to add that little delica. You're going to pick up another delica, and you're going to come up through the bottom. Okay? And essentially that's what you're going to do, and you're going to continue doing that until you have the desired length that you want. Now, I typically will do 8 spoke rows. Okay, so after you've gotten your base, if you count the number of beads in your spokes, and those add up to 8, you have 8 rows on there, then at that point you can stop. Okay, and it'll look like this. Here's what it's going to look like. It's going to look just like this guy right here, which he looks pretty flat and pathetic and kind of sad. But we're going to spruce him up here in just a minute. Okay, so once you finish the 8th row, you can go ahead and bury your thread and, snip the ends. And then guess what you get to do? You get to make another one exactly like this. Okay, we need 2 of them for this pattern. So you want to complete 2 of these, and you can see as you continue along that because these are smaller, it looks like it's pulling in, and this will not be flat. Okay, you can see how it's going to start to get some curvature to it. All right, once you're at that point where you have 2 of these, you need to take one of them and add 1 additional row. And in this row, okay, and you can see here how I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rows. But you're going to do 1 additional row. But for this one, instead of adding 2, you're going to add 1 bead on the spoke. So I'm going to pick up one of my number 10s, and I'm going down through and adding that on. Okay, and you can see what that's doing. That's actually finishing out the end of the little starfish, and then you'll continue to peyote around. Now, there's one other thing I was going to show you where you can potentially make a mistake. I've got to weave around to the end here, so be patient with me here for just a second. And if you're trying to figure out about how long it will take you to make one of these, I would say start to finish, probably about an hour. You should get one completed, give or take. It depends really on how fast you bead. For me, it depends on, if I'm trying to watch TV and bead at the same time, or somebody's talking to me, or if I'm really in the zone. But an hour is about what it'll take. Okay, so now I'm coming close to the end of this row. Okay, and you can see one of the things that's tempting to do, you get to this last bead, and you can see there's the bead I just added. Right there's the bead I just added. Okay, and now as I'm coming out of that delica, it's real easy to think, oh, I need to go right into this bead. No, you don't. You have to make sure you add that final bead on that row. Okay, so you're going to pick up a bead, and then I'm coming up through this bead right here. Okay, and normally in a normal row, then I would go up that next bead, but I'm at the very end. Okay, so now we have our 2 pieces that are ready to join. And what we're going to do is we're going to zip these together. I call it zipping. It's like zipping a zipper. So right now I am coming out of this, the top of this spoke. I want to pass back through that single bead that's on the top. Okay, and I actually need to get my thread. My thread's going to be on the wrong side. He's going to end up getting zipped in the middle, and then I won't be able to end. So let me poke him through the hole and get him on the right side of this starfish. Okay, this is going to be the outside of the starfish, or the top, I should say, not really the outside and the top. And this one is going to be the bottom. So we're going to zip these together, and here's how you're going to do it. You're going to put the 2 pieces together. I'm coming out of that top bead. I'm going to go down the bead at the top of that spoke on the back one. Then I'm going to pass through the first delica on the top starfish. I'm going to pass through the top delica on the bottom starfish. And you can see these beads line up kind of like a zipper. So you're going to go every other one, and you're just zigzagging back and forth. So I can get my chubby fingers out of the way if you can see this. Okay, see how it's zipping them together? And so then I'm going to go through the next one on the back side. And of course I'm doing this kind of slowly so you can see it. But you can get to where you can pass through actually 2 beads at once. Okay? Once you get this all zipped together, then it's going to be time to add your embellishments on the top. And to do that is pretty simple. Okay, you can see now. I want you to see how this is. See how that's zipped together? Just like zipping a zipper. A piece of advice I want to give you when you make this, you do want to keep your thread tension really tight. If you are too loosey-goosey, it's not going to turn out right. Also, you will want to make sure as you're beading along, you know, these edges, because you're dealing with delicas, it's like almost like they snap into place, kind of like little Legos. So really pay attention to that. Every once in a while, I don't know if I have ADD or what, I get distracted and I accidentally pick up 2 beads. And I mean, you'll notice right away if something isn't right because it's not going to fit. Okay, so at this point, you are ready to add your embellishments. And what you're going to do when you add your embellishments, it's going to be strictly up to you. I used a little bit bigger bead in the middle and a little bit smaller bead here. These are actually number 8s. These are 11s that I used here, and then I used a little teeny tiny raquel at the end. But you can use, you know, whatever size suits you. You just want to make sure that you're consistent in each section of the starfish. You're essentially going to run up and down the spokes, and you can see, I think you can see the threads that are in there. And essentially you're just running those in between to get them in place. Now you can put those on before you zip them together. If you decide to do that, I will warn you, sometimes they can be a little wonky and not as sturdy. If you decide to add those embellishments after you've put it together, it is a little bit challenging. You will probably need to use a size 13 needle. You know, you can try it with a 12. I've done it with a 12. Nothing stinks worse than breaking a bead, or worse yet, what happened to me last night was I broke the eye of my needle off inside of a bead. It wasn't on this project, but another one, and that really stinks when that happens. So I would recommend that you do that. And the other cool thing about these little starfish is when you add that single bead in the end, it's super easy to put a jump ring in there or to add, you know, beads like I did here, or like I did on the necklace. It was super easy to make these little links that I joined in there, and it just, I don't know, I think they are kind of cool. So I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. I'm definitely not an expert. If you have questions, you can feel free to message me. And if you like the video, please take a minute to like it on YouTube. Thanks!